This is me clapping for Dr. Alfred Mutua, who is the Cabinet Secretary of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs of Kenya. And honestly, loved his speech. I want you to watch it. We'll come back and I have a lot to say.
My brothers and sisters, I think let us be a bit realistic about what is going on in the world today. Many years ago, in Berlin, Europeans sat down and subdivided our continent, at times separating a brother from our sister. After they finished doing that and colonizing us, they went ahead and taught us to fear, hate, and keep away from each other. So you are my neighbor, but I fear you, and I don't want to mingle with you. Let me give you an example and use a few African examples. Today, it is easier for a European to travel within Europe without requirement of a visa. They can trade, make money, visit each other, spend money, and the European Union area, they're making a lot of money, they're becoming rich and rich every day. In Africa, our former colonies and what they taught us still prevails. Then they mingle among each other. Today in Africa, the reality is that for an African to visit a European nation, an ordinary African, to visit a European nation, is like, let me give you an example my teacher used to use. It's like trying to milk an elephant because of the visa process. However, for a European to visit an African nation, most of our nations, it is like a walk on the beach. It's like going to have a cup of tea. But then that is not the problem. The tragedy is that now for an African to visit a fellow African within the African Union, the visa restrictions in many of our nations, among us, between our brothers and sisters, is like trying to brush the teeth of a crocodile. They came, divided us, and they have taught us to keep each other from each other. Then they're mingling with each other and making money and growing, but they have taught us to hate each other. But for us to really enjoy the true economic benefits of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, we need to behave like the Europeans and allow for the free movement of people and trade. Our development agencies, such as the African Union Development Agency and others, cannot really succeed when there are all these restrictions among ourselves. To this end, in our contribution to this continental aspiration, Kenya is committed to progressively, and we are moving very fast by the end of this year, to abolish visas to citizens from African Union member states to make it easier to invest and do business in Kenya and across the continent. We are going to open the borders of Kenya. We do not fear our fellow Africans. Come, travel to Kenya. Live, do business in Kenya. Trade, make money in Kenya. And we hope we'll get reciprocity with the rest of you. Let us open our continent so that we can make money and live together. Let us remove the shackles of colonialism that are still embedded in our heads.
When I tell you, this man said everything that I've been talking about last week, and I don't know, maybe Dr. Alfred might be a subscriber. I'm kidding, but I'm so grateful that he mentioned the points that he had brought up. Like he said, for example, they taught us not to like one another and we're neighbors and we fear each other. Like this is literally what he said. European people want to go from point A to point B. They don't suffer because there's no visa requirement there. He said that they can trade and visit each other and most importantly, make money. They can do that while traveling and seeing their neighboring countries. None of them have to face what we have to face. He actually used a proverb or a saying that I genuinely laughed out loud. He said, Africans trying to travel to the EU is like someone trying to milk an elephant. That's what he said. And I thought that was so funny, but we also gave another example of how it is like for Europeans to travel to Africa. He said it's like going out to get tea. For them, it's very simple. But also he made a point about even Africans trying to travel within Africa. He said Africans trying to visit another African country is like someone trying to brush a crocodile's teeth. And honestly, he's right. And that is really, really sad. That's what's really sad about this whole situation. Us being forced to tell our whole entire life story to these countries to apply for visa to European countries or to the US or any other country or continent outside of Africa. We go through hell and back. But what is worse than that is the fact that we have to go through the same situation when we're applying to our neighboring country. One other thing I also want to add, it's not just the visa requirement, it's the fact that I have to pay twice or sometimes 3 times to travel just to Ethiopia. Like, let me tell you, just to travel from Ethiopia to Kenya or from Kenya to Ethiopia is almost $1,000, fam. It's like $800, $900. But do you know how much it costs to travel from Kenya to Dubai? It's about $400, $500. Even the most expensive airline is gonna charge you about $800. Imagine that, fam. It's way cheaper to go to Dubai. Same with Turkey. I know, because I've done my research. When you're trying to go to Turkey, it's way cheaper than when you're trying to go to Ethiopia, which is a 2-hour flight, fam. So you can't tell me that this is not done by design, and we need to fix that. That is why I was so excited to watch Dr. Alfred's speech, and it made me so happy that he chose to address this situation, because this is something that a lot of people have been pushing for, and for some reason no one listens to us. But when we hear someone that has power talk about this, makes us happy, makes us feel heard, right? Like, that's how I feel about this. But let me know down below what your thoughts are about what he addressed, and why do you think we do this to one another? Let me know.